This is In the Lab. I have Asia Shabazz here. Asia Shabazz. Why am I speaking with a lisp?
Okay.
Asia Shabazz. It's like a tongue twister, huh?
Yeah.
No, I want to keep that one. That's the
Love
good
it.
one.
Yeah. Authentic. Okay.
That's the real one. So, I have here, we're obviously in this series interviewing different creators from different backgrounds, getting people that are in my world, outside of my world, just kind of learning the creative mindset and, asking questions and learning myself. I'm very interested in finding out how everybody else does things, kind of help me on my journey. So, Asia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, what's up? You said it. Asia Shabazz, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here, excited to be talking with you.
That's awesome. Well, I'm really excited to have you. And we kind of talked about this off camera a little bit, but my first question is just right off the fly. You talked about like you being from LA and how that kind of shaped who you are as a person, your friendships, your relationships. How do you feel that LA is a part of your story?
I think it's the heartbeat of my entire story. It's the nucleus of it. Like we said off camera, being from here is very rare and a gem because you grow up with Hollywood in your backyard. And so for me, when I look at this industry and I look at the world that I work in, play in, live in, I know it. I'm not coming in with any other outside experiences, and I was brought up in it. So I just understand the language through and through. It's my first language.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's the biggest thing about being from here, with Hollywood and the entertainment industry being, the front center of it.
Yeah. And as you've developed, because just reading through your accomplishments and what you've done in your journey, there's like different paths that you've taken, right? So how do you feel like, like through those different journeys, has LA kind of helped you get to where you want to be as in those different journeys? I mean, you're an artist, you're a dancer, obviously you're a DJ and a curator and a tastemaker. Like how has LA kind of shaped those things and helped you along your journey? Because obviously this is the place of entertainment, right?
Right.
So
yeah. It's interesting because I'm from LA, born and raised, spent most of my life here, but I also took about 7-8 years and moved to New York.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing being from LA, moving to New York is, people say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere in the world. But if you can make it in LA, you've made it. And I think right?
Yeah.
I think that is extremely important because this is the top 40 city of all industries, not just entertainment. You have the top doctors, you have the top lawyers, you have the top writers, the top producers, everything. And so you literally can go to lunch next door and run into Timbaland. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The opportunity is just at your forefront. And the difference with people that understand how it works is utilizing that and really taking advantage of that space and holding space and walking in that. I think that for me being from here, it is what has driven my entire being of why I'm even here on this earth, which is to live in my authenticity and walk with integrity.
Yeah.
Music has been my musical palette, or my musical canvas, I should say, and I've picked up different paintbrushes along the way.
Yeah.
So God gave me the gift of music, and I just use these different paintbrushes, dancing, singing, DJing, event producing, to paint this masterpiece.
Yeah.
But it all doesn't matter if I don't walk with integrity and if I'm not being a vessel on this earth, which is just, giving God's love and being an example of God's love. And so that's what drives me. And I think that being my intention came wholeheartedly from being from this city.
Yeah, I think we talked about, actually one of my other episodes, we talked about authenticity and walking in your full self, right? Like just being unabashedly yourself. And how, and especially in a city like LA, that's really so important to your core because there aren't many people that are authentic.
Right.
I don't run into a lot of people that are wholly themselves. They're either trying to put on a front or be something that they're not, or present somebody that they're not. So like running into somebody in this space, in music, in entertainment, in LA is like, it's pretty crazy to think that, I think, and that's why, I would imagine that makes you unique in this industry. So that's a credit to you. So you talked about, I'm not even going off questions yet, but you just keep giving me this other question.
I love it.
You talked about, like how LA is a breeding ground for opportunity. Do you have any fun stories of like how you were just out and about or, you know, something along those lines, and something happened, an opportunity just presented itself, just being from LA, or, you know?
Honestly, every day is an adventure for me. Like, I crack up. Even being in this space, I'm just like, you know, when you're from here, you live the life, you know, but you can come across pockets of spaces and be around people that you don't even know. I think for me, specifically because I wake up every day and just try and be present in the moment, I'm not really looking for opportunity. And through that, it kind of just happenstance and then happens organically.
Yeah.
So I think I'm trying to think of like a funny story. Okay, so I was an artist at one point in my life, right? And I used to work with, damn, no, I can't think of his name. Golly, I can't even think of his
all
name.
good.
I know, but it sucks because the story's really good. Anyways, he was a very well-known producer, 90s R&B producer.
Yeah.
And he had a studio, and I had worked out of that studio as an artist, and it was really amazing. And then literally 8 years later, I'm walking from my house to my local breakfast spot, and he's sitting there. And it's been 8 years. Now I'm not even an artist anymore. Now I'm a DJ, you know?
Yeah.
And so we reconnected. But it was just so funny because I'm like, what are the odds that this morning I'm just literally going to get my eggs, my omelet, you know, my normal juice, and he's sitting here. And it was just, and I had a homegirl with me, and she isn't in the industry. And so she was like taken aback because he's a very known producer, even though I can't remember his name right now, but whatever. Yeah, exactly. But she was taken aback because she was just like, so you just randomly run into these superstars on our morning breakfast run? And I'm like, yeah. And then I'm like, and then crazy story, I'm like, I worked with him, you know, 8 years ago. And I think that's just kind of like, again, the beauty of LA, where it's just like, one thing that I have learned with all my endeavors is, you know, your relationships are really important, and you never know where somebody's going to be 10 years from now, 5 years from now, next year. Like in this game, it's a game of musical chairs. And so it brings it back to walking with integrity and being your authentic self, because say I would have been an asshole or a diva, you know what I mean, working with him as an artist. Now I'm running into him, and now I'm a DJ, you know what I mean? And he could have remembered me as like a complete bitch, you know? And it wasn't that, and our exchange was great, you know what I mean? And so those things are important, but you know, that's a day in the life of living in LA.
Yeah, you know, it's like, it's crazy. Like you said, that wouldn't happen in any other, I mean, maybe like New York or something, but even in New York, it's not set up in a way where it's organic.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like people are always so on the move. There's no, like, there's actually people that stop in LA. So like you said, I think it's a way that, you know, it's crazy that opportunity can just present itself. So I do have a question now. As we were getting your background, you were saying, you know, I'm a singer, I'm an artist, I'm this, I'm this. When was the times that you, like, what was the pivot points in those? So you were an artist first. Okay. No, dancer first.
Dancer first, yeah.
Dancer first. Then you made the artist, and then you did the DJ and curating.
Yeah.
So, like, what was the point in each one of those journeys where you were like, I'm going to do this now, or I'm going to do that now?
That's a good question. So I started dancing at age 3. I would just dance around the house, and my cousin told my mom, you should put her in dance classes. And so she did, and I fell in love with it, and it was great. Everything was awesome. This was also a time where internet wasn't there, and so I started doing commercials and music videos. Like, I was literally like, not to tell on myself, but I was doing videos for like Little Romeo and dancing for him. And, you know, at that time it was like that era of music.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget, it was my very last music video that I did as a dancer. It was for Leona Lewis, and we were actually right at the Universal lot before it got burned down. And we, as a dancer, you just had so many long days. Like, I mean, 18-hour days of dancing full out, and it was just really tiring on your body. And I'll never forget, they gave me two sizes too small pumps, heels, to dance in on literally like a street floor. And we were dancing. It was an 18-hour day. It was a 3-day shoot. And I just remember being like, this can't be it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I love this. And so that was the first thought of like, okay, something's got to give, you know?
Yeah.
And then I got an opportunity to join a girl group from a very known person in this industry, and it was, I won't say his name, but he pretty much was like, you're cute, you can dance, you can perform, I don't need you to sing.
Yeah.
And he was like, I just want you to be in this group and they'll do all the work. And for me, I was like, heck yeah, I get to do what I love and not have to do any work and not have to have 18-hour days, you know? And so that experience then opened up my mind to being like, oh, like the artist life is really cool. Like you can have this and you can also dive into this. And so from there, I was like, I want to be an artist. But being how I am as a person, I'm a sponge. So any room I'm in, I want to learn everything. I'm like,
I feel you on that.
I'm going to talk to our camera guy at the end and be like, hey, so what camera are you using? You know, and things like that.
That's my camera.
Oh, see, you know that, exactly. So you get it. So in those spaces, I'm constantly learning. So when I decided I wanted to do that, I 1000% respect the art and the craft of what artists do.
Yeah.
So I took vocal lessons. I was, you know, in that. And then I ultimately got my record deal with Sony Music and moved to New York. That was why I moved to New York. And I had been doing this my whole life. And I had what I thought was everything I wanted. I had a top charting single with Fetty Wap when he was at his prime. I was, you know, top 50 on the R&B charts out there. I was touring. I was doing everything that I thought I had worked so hard for, and I was extremely unhappy. And it was a very all that glitters isn't gold moment for me. And I was just like, ain't no way. Like, ain't no way I got here and I'm here and I'm the most unhappy I've ever been in my life, you know? Very, very dark world. And I think, you know, the industry can be very dark. And so for me, I was like, I need to take a step back. So I wanted to leave my deal. However, they were putting me up in New York. So I needed to figure it out because I was like, they're putting me up. How am I going to make money? I'm not ready to leave New York yet.
Sure.
A label rep took to me. And we had just did a whole promo run, right? We had this record. So we hopped around and did a bunch of clubs and stuff. So along my journey, I had a really good friend who was a DJ. And so he used to throw parties and I would, being the sponge, hop on and learn. I used to have a fake DJ name, DJ Asian Persuasion.
Okay.
and he would throw parties and I would literally hop on and be like, let me get on. And I would learn. So I knew how to DJ, but never took it serious.
Yeah.
So the label rep was like, you know how to DJ? She's like, let's go do this same run and I'm going to pitch you as a DJ. Yeah. And she's like, you can make money, you can get out of your deal, whatever. I said, say less, bet. And what was awesome about that was it allowed me to still be in the music, but not have to be in front of it, you know, because I love music. I'm like, I love this, you know, still. And that just took me exactly to where I am now. And it's just been an amazing journey, an amazing ride. And I still feel like I'm just getting started, you know?
Yeah.
I think, like I said, the biggest thing is that I just am a lover of music. And then now me being on all sides of the equation, the artist, the talent, the back end, now I produce events and I curate experiences. And it's just because I've been on all sides of the table. So I know what it takes. You know what I mean? I know what it takes to have to produce, and I know what it takes to have to show up as talent. And so I think that that's a strength of mine that I am, you know, embrace and just utilize.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's funny you talk about how, you know, you got everything that you wanted and you're like, this can't be it. You know what I mean? That's like, I think that's like, I mean, obviously the word I would use, it's a depressing feeling.
Oh, I was in a very dark depression that time.
Oh, I mean, you said you were very, like, what was it about, like, so what was first off, what were you aiming for? Right? Was it the single? Was it the, you know, the top charting single? And when you got there, what was it about it that didn't leave you fulfilled? It was just, because that's curious to me, because that's all our dreams, right? Yeah. That's like, that's why we do this, right? It's so that we can make it there. But like, what was it that was still the hole that wasn't fulfilled?
Well, first of all, I wanted to be Beyonce, okay? Yeah. Like, I was like, I want to be Beyonce. She's my role model. This is what I'm going to do. When I got to New York, I was struggling. Even though the label was putting me up, I was living off of 99-cent pizzas and the halal guys. And I was splitting halal plates with other friends and people, you know what I mean, on the team. So we were broke, but like performing in front of 30,000 people, opening up for T.I. and doing these things, you know? And so another thing about New York that helped me just gain a different perspective was My very first vocal coach, Stevie Mackey, I was his first vocal student, which he has gone on to do amazing things for.
To interrupt, I was to say, doesn't he present singing lessons now? Like
Yes.
he does it online.
Yeah,
I
for all
almost
your
signed up
favorites,
for one of his lessons.
as
so
you
funny.
should. It's great. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was actually his first vocal student.
Wow.
And so we've, stayed really close till this day. And when I was living in New York, he called me, and at the time he still works with J-Lo. He was working with J-Lo, and he's like, I have 2 shows. He's like, Good Morning America and Jimmy Fallon. And he was like, I need you to sing background. And he's like, it's paying $7,000. And I was like,
I'm there.
I don't care what I got to do. I'm showing up. Mind you, I'm broke in New York, you know? But the interesting thought of that is if this had been 3 years prior when I was living in LA, I would have turned that down. I would have been like, I'm not singing background. Like, I'm the Beyonce, you know? Like, I was like, but again, living in New York, it was like, you got to get it how you get it. You know, it's a hustle out here. And so that definitely shifted my perspective because, like I said, I wouldn't have accepted that job, and then it opened up my thought process and helped also just spiritually, and helped align my gifts with my spirituality, where it's like God gives us gifts and it's up to us to use them. And it's not for us to only limit those gifts to the one way that we think. Like if I would have still been off of that, I would have said no, because here I am thinking I'm supposed to be Beyonce, when it's like, girl, you got to sing with the roots. You know what I mean? And got a nice check for it, And so
it's like that story where they're talking about, like, what was it? It was like there's a story about like how it was like a life raft. There was somebody who was drowning. Do you remember the story?
I love that story.
And like he keeps sending the life, and they're like, dude, I sent you 3 boats. Like I sent you opportunities.
Like God, why didn't you look out for me? He's like, I did. Exactly.
And you never know what. I love that one.
Good one,
It's one of those things that just like you never realize, and you're so like, and even in people in my space, obviously you're not charting or anything along those lines yet, but it's one of those things that like people get so full of like the vision of who they think that they are, that they let those opportunities go. And those opportunities, a lot of times, the small ones, are tests and probes to see, like, are you ready for your opportunity?
You were speaking my language.
Exactly.
So,
so it's one of those things that's interesting. It's like, those opportunities that you should take, and that New York mentality, right, of like, yo, I'm going to get it how I can get it. I'm going to get it and I'm going to move on. And, but I do understand what you were saying as far as like, having that vision of, where I was, but it seems like, and you're exactly where you need to be. You know what I mean? From hearing your past experiences, you seem very happy sitting here with you today. So I want to pivot a little bit because I do have another question. I saw that, and if you don't mind, I don't have to speak up if you don't want
anything.
to.
I'll tell you.
You have a daughter or a son?
I have a son, yes.
How old's your son?
7.
Okay, so how, and especially in the nightlife, and because you said you work late and all that stuff, how do you manage? Because I'm a father too. I have 2 little boys. So
how old are they?
1 and 5.
Oh, okay.
So how do you manage, doing this job that obviously demands so much of your time, and in a very integral kind of time of the day where it's like the nighttime, and living that life, and how do you balance the 2?
I cry a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot of tears. There's a lot of sacrifice that comes with this life and this career choice. But it's the duality of life, right? With the tears, with the sacrifices, I'm able to provide and give my son everything that he asked for and more. And not only that, I am extremely structured. So a little bit about me on the technical side. I am a very dot your I's and cross your T's type of girl. Like, I'm a creative, but I am very technical, very analytical. So my calendar is everything. My to-do list is everything. I have my 3-year plan, my 5-year plan. I am her, okay? That is how I move in everything in life. And so that is what allows me to be able to show up 100% in both worlds. Because while there are sacrifices being made, when I first became pregnant, wrote down and very much ruminated on what kind of mother I wanted to be. And I needed to be okay with whatever that looked like before I stepped into that journey, so that whoever came up, it wasn't going to affect my goals and my belief system. And so I knew when I was pregnant that I was going to be a rock star mom. I was like, I'm made for this. I'm made for this life. I love this like wholeheartedly. And so I need to figure out how to be able to also still be the mom that's pureeing every meal, that's packing every lunch and writing little notes. I'm a PTA mom. I show up at all the field trips. I just literally before this interview had to drop something off to his teacher before here. And so I knew I wanted both. And I'm a firm believer in having your cake and eating it too. I think that the problem with the disconnect with people who aren't able to do that is the structure and the work ethic. And for me, hard work is easy, right? I just need the vision. Give me the vision and I'll go and do the work. And so, it gets hard. Like, sometimes, I get home at 3 a.m. and I have to be up at 6 a.m. because I do want to make my son's lunch and I do want to have a morning conversation with him. And I don't just want to go through the motions of the day and carry on about my life, And so, but that takes discipline. And that also takes, more than just motivation. Like, it really takes discipline because I could easily be like, I'll hang out with him tomorrow. You know what I mean? After school. But it's like, no, another thing with that is having a vision in where I want to be and where I want to go. So I knew very early on that I didn't just want to be in the clubs. I knew that as a DJ. I was like, it's not really for me, like I can turn up and I can play top 40 records, but I'm a vibe curator. I like to set the vibe for all rooms, for all different spaces. And I knew that. So I knew that the club thing was probably something I was going to have to do in the beginning to earn my, stripes.
Your place,
But, and again, honoring and respecting the craft of DJs. However, I knew where I wanted to go. And I was like, I want to do, again, larger rooms with, more intentionally driven, curated people. And that is now where I'm at, and so I'm not necessarily in the clubs as late anymore, and I am doing events from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So guess what? I get to drop my kid off, have enough time to maybe even get a little workout in, go, to my gig, stop by the grocery store afterwards, pick up my kid at 5 o'clock,
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's funny. We talked about this. I had an interview with my mom, and we talked about I learned that that exact thing that you're talking about. It's like you can make a million excuses. I think I said this on camera. There's always an excuse. There's always a reason why you can't do something, and there's always a reason why people won't, think of you less if you didn't do the thing, right? But you're not providing an incredible life for your kid if you're buying into those reasons. If you are taking those reasons, I have the same schedule. Like me personally, I'll stay up in my office and we're working till like 3:30, 4 a.m., right? And then I get back, but I'm there for breakfast every morning. You know what I mean? I never miss it. I'm there every single time. I take him to school. We do what we do. We come back. We have our time. We have, just me and him time. And that's how we do it every day, regardless of what I have going on, because I'm not going to rob him of that experience. So I understand where you're coming from when you talk about, like I said, like not taking the excuses and understanding that, you're trying to. And I had a great example. And my mom, who was working 2-3 jobs most of the time to provide for me and, making me feel like I was the only person in the room. So it's, what you're doing, that's beautiful to hear because that's the experience that I had. And I know later on down the line, they're going to appreciate you for that. And they're going to see what you did.
Thank you. And, just to piggyback off of that, my mentor used to say, you can have a valid excuse to fail.
Oh, yeah.
And that's real, and that's when it comes down to your why and what it is that you want. And I also think that discipline is a muscle. That's why I started off the answer with saying a lot of tears. Because I may make it look easy but it's not always easy. And there are constant times of doubting myself and questioning myself. And, there are times that I can't make it to the field trip, you know what I mean? Or, I can't go and drop him off or be with him during his play date because I have to work. But more often than not, I can. And then also too, I look at its perspective, right? Because then you have people who do live, a 9-to-5 job, which there's nothing wrong with that, but that's their job and they can't make it to anything. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean when I say the duality of life. I've been able and been blessed, and I just literally thank God every moment that I can to curate this life where I do what I love for a living, and I'm able to literally do all the things that I want to do, and I don't take it for granted at all.
So you kind of answered this, but I'm curious because with people that are able to do a lot of different things, that have different paths and, a lot of different skills. What side of yourself do you say that you identify with the most? Because you are the artist, you are the dancer, and you are the curator. But everybody has the thing that they lean towards the most, they feel the most. And why is that? Like, what do you feel like? Is it the curator? Is that the part that you are most, or is it you're the artist that, because you're an artist and your experiences, you can curate? Like, what is it? Who do you mostly identify with?
That's a really hard question because it's almost, I'm half Creole.
Yeah.
It's almost like asking, what's your favorite part of the gumbo? And it's like,
That's true.
Is it the crab? Is it the sausage? Is it the roux? Is it the rice? Like,
what do you feel drives the rest of your creativity then? What side of you? Because obviously, like, is it the artist in you that lets you know how to?
So that's what I mean. Like, it all drives me every day. You know what I mean? Like, I think that artists and being an artist shows up in all aspects of life. It's in how I rearrange my household, or how I structure out my day, or how I decide to put on my makeup this morning or get dressed, like, or how I show up, you know what I mean, to interviews. Like, it just can, it's in, and not on camera, but like before when we walked in and introduced ourselves. I think that what I have taken from my life, from my experience, is it all exists all at the same time. You know what I mean? I think what drives me has nothing to do with any of that. And what drives me is just being a people lover. And like, that's why I said, like, my purpose in life has nothing to do with any of this. It has to do with walking in God's love, showing up in that space, whatever capacity that looks like, and then utilizing all my gifts. I'm a great talker, right? But like, it doesn't matter if it's on camera, off camera. Maybe I'm just talking to the barista at Starbucks, you know? And like, through that, I've had literally, I remember years ago, I was at Starbucks and I'm just chit-chatting with the barista, and we ended up getting really deep. It was really crazy. But also, story of my life, I always get deep. Yeah. And she literally thanked me at the end of that. It was just like, I just want you to know I was having a bad day, and like, that our conversation shifted things. And for me, it was like, purpose. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So, I do think that obviously music is, like I said, the canvas of it all. Yeah. But it's deeper. Okay.
I got to take a second to point this out, by the way. This is all natural. We talked about this off camera. She got the storm thing going. She's killing it. I just got to say that. I couldn't believe it when you told me that. I was like, man, that's amazing.
Maybe that's why I should start telling people I'm a superhero.
But you're telling me you've never showed up to Halloween like that?
No.
Are you kidding me?
I know.
You were killing.
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm like.
So I told him off camera, but I used to get bullied for this hair. And so it wasn't until I moved to New York that people embraced it, because who has time to mascara your hair before you're getting on the train? And so I never looked at it as like a thing until, honestly, in the last few years, when people were like,
hey.
Yeah, so I appreciate that.
Yeah,
You're just helping me heal my trauma.
I'm telling you, I got you. We're doing a full 180. Right. All right, hold on. Let me get to some more of the other stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny. We were talking about the moment in yourself where you said you were going through Great Depression, and there was things that, you were trying to work your way through. What was the moment that you broke through? What was the moment that, like, you were like, you know what? I'm on the other side of the fence now.
It's interesting. So I left the label. I was DJing, had my cute apartment in New York, was living on my own, was living this rock star lifestyle, pre-baby, of course. And then you would think I would have thought like, oh, I'm successful, but I still didn't really have that feeling. Then I had my son. Opened up a whole different portal for me in thought process and just reevaluating everything. I took the first year off of having my son. And so I was blessed to be able to literally just be at home with him and just live that out. I'd never taken a break in my life since age 3. So imagine, and then when he turned 1, I was literally going crazy, mixed with postpartum depression and all of that. Also, I had not taken a break since I was 3. And so 1 year full, even though I was giving it all to my child and that's fulfilling, I was going crazy. And so simultaneously, I got this offer to go on tour with an artist, and it was a 10-day London tour. And I was like, fuck yes. Like, I'm get paid to go and travel and go out of the country, and it's only 10 days. So it was like enough for me to be away, but like not too much, you know? And so that, and then I ended up touring with her throughout the whole entire next year. And it was like God, honestly, because the tour was only like 7 days, then I'd come home. 4 days, then I come home.
Oh, that's perfect.
It was like, and I was traveling the world, you know what I mean? And here I am, like, I'm making all this money. I'm back. Being on tour prospectively looks great on paper. Now other clients are reaching out. Hey, all the things. It honestly put me at the front of the line after being on hold for a year. And I thought that was like my moment of like being like, okay, I'm successful. I'm on the other side of things, but it wasn't. I actually, again, was like, hey, like something's missing. And I realized it was because I wasn't, even though I was living out like my dreams, I wasn't doing anything impactful. And as a mother now, I'm looking at my life. I'm like, yeah, I just performed for 60,000 people and and I'm in Malaysia and I'm in Russia and I'm doing all these things. But like, what am I doing that's going to make my son proud? And that then shifted my perspective and shifted my mentality. And so the following year, I literally told myself, I don't want to participate in anything that has nothing to do with intention and nothing that has to do with that's not affecting and impacting people. And the next year, every project that I participated in, every artist that I was working with, every job that I was doing was in alignment with that. And that was when I was like, this is what matters. This is now being on the other end of this is what it feels like and looks like to be successful. When the fruits of your labor aren't just on the outside, but you're also paying it forward and, feeling it on the inside.
I mean, it's true because like people tell you all the time when you're on your deathbed, you're not going to be like, hey, I performed for 60,000 people. You know what I mean? You're going to be like thinking about your family. You're going to be thinking about the people in your life that you love and like all that stuff. And you're saying, obviously, that's what gives you weight. That's what gives you value in your life. And, that's beautiful. I have a question, and this is just off of a thing, just hearing you speak about alignment and spirituality and, who you are as a person and your integrity. Are you spiritual? Or are you your faith? You're in faith and you believe in God, and where did that start for you? Like, has that always been a thing with you, or is that something that you had to reawaken in yourself later on down the line as you were going through like turbulent times, or like how has that been a part of your life?
That's a good question. So background, my mother is Filipino, my father is Creole. I have the last name Shabazz, so my father was part of Nation of Islam. Okay. However, my mother is Filipino and grew up Catholic. And so the first 6-7 years of my life, I was raised Nation of Islam. We didn't celebrate holidays. I couldn't wear short skirts. It was very disciplined. Yeah. And after my father and my mom separated, my mom very much had this is what I believe in, and she's Christian. Yeah. This is what I believe in, have at it. And there was no pressure. Mm-hmm. However, I do kind of go back on that because I'm like, you did put me in private school, a Christian private school for a year. So even though you said, but I think that was more just because of the quality and the structure of the schooling. Yeah. But I appreciated her for having that because her growing up in a Filipino household, Catholic, very strict, I'm sure it was very limiting, and then to get with a man who's Nation of Islam, so it's interesting because now today I am extremely spiritual. That's what I stand on. I do believe in God. But I also can say that I also think that God is not as limiting as even just calling God God. Yeah. And I think that I'm not going to get too deep on this, but I'm going to touch on a little bit of it. I think that man made up language, right? So even just the letters that we're using, the words that we're using, I think that man made that up. Yeah. So how limiting is it to even just put this amazing idea into just three letters and call it God, or even limit, and I do say him, you know what I mean? But even to limit that and say him or her, whatever, all the things. However, what I will say is, in my daily life, because I resonated with Christianity very early on, I do believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that from the stories that I've heard and what I've read in the Bible, I think that it's an amazing story and it's an amazing book that allows you to get closer to God. But I say that with also the concept of eat the meat and spit out the bones. Like, you know, paganism is real. There's a lot of things, you know, these holidays that we celebrate, are very interesting and very capitalism-ish driven. And so, however, there's still the duality of it. And like, I also believe that Buddha was doing what Buddha was doing. You know what I mean? And I think that, again, the human experience is to experience. And I don't fault anybody for thinking or feeling whatever it is that they feel. I have picked up pieces and picked up tools along my way, and what works for me works for me. And I'm open to hearing other people's stories and hearing other people's experiences and not having to take that on and not having to have any judgment with it, you know?
That was just, I mean, and really, this was just me because I really want to get to know who you are.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
And hearing you speaking, like I could hear it worked into what you're saying. Like it's a part of who you are. It's a part of your belief system. It's a part of all that stuff. So I want to know where that comes from because, you know, I mean, everybody has their journeys, right? You know, sometimes, you know, it's hard in the entertainment industry to, you know, deal with people who, you know, believe in God and like all that stuff. So it's very interesting to hear somebody who's navigated and been at the top of the charts and all that stuff and your perspective on your thoughts and beliefs and things like that and how you've been able to maintain that through this treacherous, obviously, industry, the music industry.
Yeah, I always agree when people say that this is the devil's playground. Because, and it has nothing to do with this big beast devil person that's walking around, right? Yeah. It has to do with the fact that this industry alone is gravitating to all of our carnal desires, right? Of course. Lust, sex, beauty, all these ego-driven things that ultimately, ego for me stands for edging God out. It's literally pushing us away from our actual core of like us just literally being a being. Like when we die, this body doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? And so I think I understand why they say that because again, what the devil represents is all those things, you know? And I think that it's also interesting that, you know, he was the angel of music, you know, which is very important. This is why, like I said, I love studying the Bible. I also love studying all kinds of other books, but I think that there's truth into a little bit of everything. And that's why I say you have to eat the meat and spit out the bones and take what resonates with you. And I think that with this world, you do have to be a lamp in this dark space, you know, and whatever that looks like for wherever anybody is, you know, like I'm pretty sure that some people have experienced me at a place that I probably wasn't my best, you know, and I can't do anything about that. I can just focus on where I am today, you know, hold on to the principles and the values that I've acquired along the way and just pray to God, you know what I mean? That we keep it moving, you know, but I do. I stand on all those things, but my practices are what allows me to show up how I do every day. So like for me, my morning ritual, my morning routine, the reason why I wake up so early is because I need at least 45 minutes to an hour by myself.
I roll out of bed.
Oh, do you?
I roll. I just like flip up and it's ready. It's time to go.
I love people like you that can do that. I love that and very much respect it.
Yeah.
But I can't because I need to be able to set my intention for the day.
Yeah, for sure.
20 minutes of that is maybe prayer, reading. I always read the daily scripture on the Bible app. You know what I mean? I love listening to frequencies and meditating on that and
is
just.
It 440?
There's a bunch of different hertz. There's 832.
I want to get into that.
It's great. And Apple Music is great, especially for beginners. You can literally just type them in and they'll say healing frequency, love frequency, manifesting frequency. And then as you dive into it, you can kind of like feel it out. But it's great. But I have to have that in the morning before I even open anything. I don't touch my phone. I don't do any of that. Yeah. And I think those moments are what allows me to then carry on about my day and show up my wholehearted self. I have to put work into being who I am. Yeah. It doesn't just show up. Now, don't get me wrong. If I just got home at 4 a.m, I may not be getting up at 6 o'clock. I may be getting up at 6:45. I may read that daily scripture with one eye open. You know what I mean? But I'll at least give it something. Again, it's just like, for me, I just wake up and try and do what I have with what I got in that moment.
That's beautiful. Hold on one sec. You got a little tickle in my throat. Yeah. All right. I don't even know where it went, but that's okay. All right. So, let's see. You know, I got a comment on the outfit, the style, all that good stuff, right? So,
Thank you.
how do you stay ahead of trends without losing your own personal style? Like, how do you continue to show who you are and what you're doing and what you're wearing and your style and how you present yourself?
I'm very intentional with everything, right? Yeah. So I, growing up a dancer, kind of always had this dancer vibe to me, you know? But I am also constantly trying to grow and to be a better version of myself. And when doing that, I study a lot of like mental leadership developer, spiritual people. So like Bob Proctor's and John C. Maxwell. And when they speak, they talk about imagining the version of who you want to be in all aspects. Yeah. I mean, down to how you are, how you sit, how you wear your hair, how you dress.
You got me thinking about I'm like, what's my poll saying about me? Hold on. Do I need to...
You know what I mean? A little something. But like all these things. And so what does that version look like? You know, like, okay, Asia, not to be materialistic, but I want a Rolls Royce. So what does that version of Asia look like? How does she show up in rooms? Yeah. What does she, you know? So I say that to say, in the different levels of life and rooms that I'm in, again, I just eat the meat, spit out the bones. I take what I like and I leave what I don't. And I also am I've created a muscle that has allowed me to not be afraid to try. Yeah. Obviously, I have my self-doubts. Obviously, I may sit on something a little bit longer than I should when I'm like, I know I should be doing this. But for the most part, I get up and I try. Yeah. So I try and, you know what I mean? If I saw something on somebody that looked great and I'm like, oh, I like that, I may go and get something and then just put it on and see how I can finesse it in my way. Yeah. I think a lot of it is just kind of knowing who you are at the core. And because I put so much work into who I am, I feel very confident in that. And then through that, I, try different things out. This is actually Kids of Immigrants, which is actually my cousin's line.
Oh, really?
And so, but then, I mix it with a little All Saints. And so, got a little bit of like streetwear. You got a little bit, little something, soft and subtle. Yeah. But, and it's just how I feel. How I dress is literally how I feel for that day. Yeah. And so I try and stick with that. It's all about a feeling for me.
That's dope.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I mean, like me, I'm just...
You got the cool grays on, though.
Hey, you know what I'm saying?
Sometimes all you need is just one little 1, 2. You got the cool grays on.
I got to give you credit because that was the first thing, like one of the first things you said to me when I came in here.
I'm an observer. I literally observe everybody. I pay attention.
So what keeps you, because we talked about all the different places that you've been and how you got to where you've arrived. Right? So, my question is what's motivating you for what's next? And what do you think is what's next?
I kind of have a cheat sheet being a mom.
Yeah.
So, motherhood and parenting, as you know, is very colorful. Yeah. And so, being
too,
all the things, exactly. And so, for me, being a mom, I don't move the way that I moved 7 years ago. Mm-hmm. Before, I was just kind of going with the flow, and whatever happened, whatever stuck. Now, I'm responsible for a whole entire human being. Yeah. So even down to where he's going to go to school in middle school, right? Mm-hmm. I always known, I wanted to get into real estate, and that was going to happen regardless. But now it's with, intention. Like, okay, well, where are we going to be living when he's in middle school? Because that will determine the school that he's in, and things of that nature. And so... For me, I've always had 3, 5-year, 10-year, all those things, but being a mom has allowed me to kind of focus it more. Yeah. So I'm a DJ, I'm an event producer, I do all these amazing things. However, I'm like, where do I want to be in 10 years? Yeah. My mom is getting older. How am I going to be able to give her the life that she deserves in her 4th quarter of living? Yeah. So I'm already thinking about that, even though I'm not there yet. And then, what you see today, I was thinking these thoughts 10 years ago. And so now I'm in the space. It's interesting that you asked me that, because I am in the space now where I'm like, where do I want to be in 10 years from now?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
What do you want to explore? That's what I'm curious. Is there anything in particular that you're interested in? I mean, no, because it seems like, you have so many interests and you have so many different
I
paths
do.
you can
I have it
go.
all. I have it
Yeah.
all, and I want to do it all. No, I mean, one thing I'll say is I always said that when I turn 40, I want to go back to school. I've had this amazing interest in psychology.
Oh, nice.
I love just the human brain, behavior patterns, things of that, which is probably why I analyze and do the things that I do already.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted to go back to school and become a psychologist.
Wow,
And
okay.
whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
and then also I thought like, okay, at 40, that's good too, because now I'm like reinserting myself in school, which will allow me to grow and my brain to do all the things it needs to do.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Whatever this looks like for me, I want to just keep exploring. I want to keep diving in. I want to impact as many people as I can in whatever way that looks like, you know. A lot of it is like, I have these ideas and I know like, I'm like, yeah, I want to own multiple, like if we're going to talk materialistic stuff, I want to own multiple properties and I want to have this and I want to do all that, and that's fine, but then outside of that, it's also, okay, well, what's the intention? What do I have today that can get me there? And then the final piece, which is very important to me, is then surrendering to God.
Yeah.
And letting God show me where I'm supposed to go. I think that because I'm such an analytical, goal-driven person, I sometimes can fixate on what that looks like. And I've been working really hard in these last few years at, while I have this vision, I have this vision that I'm not necessarily tethered to.
Yeah.
Like I have this vision, but I'm not married to it, because that vision may show up in a completely different form.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm like we talked about the guy with the boat, if I'm over here looking for it on this side and the whole time it's here, I'm missing out on my blessing,
That's how I feel about it. It's like one of those things where I'm a firm believer of like, because I've lived like 3-4 different lives. Like I did like, I was a national bodybuilder. I like played college basketball.
So what is the trick to get in the game?
I got you. I got you. I was saying, but I lived all these different lives. And if you told me at that point in my life that, asked me, what are you going to be doing? I would have said that. I would have said, I'm going to be a basketball player. I'm going to be a professional bodybuilder. I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to be a musician. Any point in time, I would have told you what I was doing at that time that I was going to be. And I really just got to the point where I started thinking, you know what, if I just like you said, with intention, if I live my life with intention, to steal your word.
That's not my word. That's all of our words.
This is true. I like how you put it, though. It sounds good. You know what I mean? You gave it to me. If I live my life with intention and just put one foot in front of the other, and each day I give everything I got to that one day, and then the next day I give everything that I got, and the next day I give everything that I got, that once I line all those days together, something good's going to happen. Right? And whatever that may be, in whatever form it is, I already know from my past that it may not be what I think it's going to be. I may be in a different place entirely, but I know that I'll be in a good spot if I gave it what I had, and I had the right people around me, and I went about it the right way. Going back to what you said at the very beginning, if I treated people with respect and dignity and, created these relationships where people 10 years later could look at me and do that, if I have those same people around me as I'm walking my path, then everything will be okay.
Yeah.
So,
Preach, talk it. Talk it. I love that.
So yeah, I mean, it's awesome hearing your perspective, because I think we share a lot of the same, I've arrived to it in different ways, but feel the same as far as like how to lead our lives and how like the kind of direction that we go in. I feel like we share a lot of the same like values in that. And it does manifest in so many different ways, but it's ones that, I could say truly today I sit here happy. I sit here proud of, where I'm at, who I am, all that stuff. And I know looking at you that you feel the same way. So it's awesome.
Don't make me get emotional about this damn interview.
Let's see here. So we talked about this actually. I was going to say it was going into like what's next and all that stuff. We kind of discussed that, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think of, it's funny. I actually had the question that said, Emily, Oh, good? Okay.
What? Good what?
Rabbit. Okay, go.
All
All right.
less.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Shabazz, it was like Asia. Well, I'm gonna say I'm Southern over.
I
Asia,
love that. People actually call me Shabazz.
Shabazz?
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
okay,
really,
okay.
that's how you know we're having a genuine connection.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people call me that, and when it comes naturally, I'm like, okay, you see me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Shabazz, it's been incredible talking to you. I feel like, this is like such a genuine conversation, and it was like really interesting, even in this short time, getting to know who you are. It's been like, it's funny like how you talk about impact and how sometimes you don't really have a long moment. You don't have maybe just a moment in time to impact somebody's life. But I feel like even just this conversation, I feel impacted by your presence. So thank you so much for being a part of this. And is there anything that you'd like to say?
Well, thank you for having me. Honestly, this was a great talk. Like, I can have these talks for hours, literally. And I just appreciate you for having me. And yeah, I guess I should plug. I have a DJ course out, so I will plug that. Yeah, for beginners. It was something that I just wanted to give back to the community and for anybody that's wanted to learn. So that's on my website, asiashabazz.com. And yeah,
we'll put it down there. It's somewhere.
put it on there.
Well, thank you so much, y'all, for joining us for another In the Lab, and hope to see you soon.